Okay, and President Trump gave another amazing speech yesterday. Today is June 25th. He gave a great speech on June 24th. Trump speaks at the Faith and Freedom Coalition. So if you have not seen that, if you have not watched it, you can watch the full thing on Rumble. Just go to Right Side Broadcasting Network. You will see it there. What I'm going to do right now is just play a short clip of the broadcast. First, let's look at this. Check this out. You're going to get, and this is all on Truth Social. So if you're following on Truth Social, Donald Trump posted this about 1 hour ago. Thank you, Faith and Freedom Coalition. Then they give the link to the full speech. Let's just watch this 19-second clip. That was pretty cool. Let me just, they're really quick at going right to the next one. Cancel that. So that is just the short clip I wanted to play there, just to show you, give you an idea of the crowd. Next, here's another one. These are all short little clips here on Truth Social. They want to interfere to a point where Joe Biden is willing to arrest his opponent who is leading him in the polls by a very large number. Let's play this one.
They want to interfere with the fair and free election to a point where Joe Biden is willing to arrest his opponent who is leading him in the polls by a very, very large number. They lie, they cheat, and they steal. And this is how low they've fallen in an attempt to win the 2024 election. And we're not going to let that happen. We're not letting it happen. They want to
lie, cheat, and steal, just like the late, great Eddie Guerrero. Here's another short little clip here.
A very respected IRS whistleblower used to be very much. You remember when the Democrats used to love whistleblowers? They don't like the whistleblowers now. Revealed that Crooked Joe sat in a room while his son Hunter messaged a Chinese Communist Party official and said to this Chinese Party official, I quote, I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. This is Cash he's talking about. Tell the director, and it doesn't get reported in the newspapers. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand. And now means right now. It means tonight. You believe this? I didn't know he was that tough. And if I get a call or a text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang or the chairman, I will.
Gotta see, sorry. Why is this? I don't know why that is playing. Sorry about that. It's weird. It's kind of fit, but
make certain that between the man sitting next to me, my father, right next to me, Pop, hi Pop, and every person he knows, you will regret not following my direction. Now, can you imagine the newspapers not reporting this? Not a word of it in any of them, mainstream. I'm sitting here waiting for the call, he said, with my father. I'm sitting here with my father waiting for the call. In other words, send us money. Within 10 days, the Bidens got $5.1 million from China for absolutely no reason. They got $5.1 million. In fact, they've taken tens of millions of dollars from China. And that's probably why maybe he's not complaining about the fact that they're building military bases in Cuba. Maybe that's the reason, I guess. Mike, what do you think? It's not even believable. This stuff isn't even believable. The worst part of the whole story is that the press doesn't want to report it because, you know, there was a time like 15 years ago, 10 years ago, you would have gotten a Pulitzer Prize. Of course, they've been totally discredited because they gave Pulitzer Prizes for the accurate and wonderful reporting on Russia, Russia, Russia. Then it turned out to be a hoax. I said, you have to withdraw the prizes. They said, well, we don't know that and we don't want to do that. We've never done that before. I said, that's okay. Do it or I'm suing you. They said, we're not going to do it. And I sued them. You know, we're in court.
Okay. All right. Cancel that. Pretty good. good stuff there. So that's just a couple. I mean, I could go on and on. I could play a few more, and I probably will. Probably should here at some point. But those are just a few clips on what is happening with President Trump and all of the awesomeness, all of the great stuff that is happening with Trump. So I'm going to play a few more clips here, maybe one or two more. Oh, that may be. Oh, here's another good one.
Joe Biden is a totally compromised president because they're bribing him. They're paying him off. They know all the money they've given, and it's far greater than anyone has been able to really understand. And I'll tell you what, Jim Jordan and Jamie Comer and their group has done an unbelievable job, but it's far greater than anybody knows. This is just some of the things. It's tens of millions of dollars, and that's just some of it that's been found. And again, the papers are reporting, and it's not only China, though, it's many other countries, including Ukraine. So we're giving hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. I keep saying, why isn't Europe paying a like amount? So we're in for 160 billion, and Europe is in for 15 billion. And nobody thinks that's right or fair, and it affects them more than it affects us. These countries know every penny the Biden crime family has taken in. The countries know. Ukraine knows. China knows. They all know. There are many countries. So he can't even or ever go against them. He can't go against them because they'll reveal the corruption, because they know exactly. They'll say, well, we sent the check here. We sent the check there. We sent. So he has to be very nice to China. He has to be very nice to Ukraine. And a huge success will be when the New York Times and the Washington Post and others put it on their front page, what's really happening here. Because this is truly 100 times bigger than Watergate. This is a much bigger story than Watergate. That's why Biden doesn't mind that China has opened up these military installations and in the process of building a tremendous amount in Cuba. It's only 90 miles off our coast. He's basically said it's okay. He's not doing anything. He's not even saying anything. He's not talking about it.
Well, there's another one there too. Oh, he keeps wanting to play that clip afterwards. But so that's three. There's a few more. How many? Definitely 1, 2, 3 here. Lots of good stuff. So if you have not seen President Trump's speech, definitely a good idea to go and check that out on Truth Social. You can just watch the short clips, or you can always find the links to the Rumble channel. Or channels. There are a few good Rumble channels that always have President Trump's latest speeches and some great clips. Those are probably the best places to find anything Trump related, if you're so inclined. Now, something's going on with the website. Could be my browser or something. But another thing, there's a few other good things I wanted to tackle here today. But first, I do want to see if RFK has anything new on Twitter. So I was just watching Tucker's latest video, which pretty much is just about, I mean, look at the title of Tucker Carlson's episode number 6, Bobby Kennedy is winning. But let's go see if Robert, let's see if he has anything new. I'm sure he does. I saw a weird video today. It's kind of cool of him actually working out. Dude is in shape. He is in a lot of shape. He also has a few great speakings coming up too. So there's going to be two of them. One, I think, probably will never make the light of YouTube because of the content on it, but he is definitely making the rounds, and there will be a town hall meeting. So I'll try to find those two that are coming up. So let's see. Here is something about. Let's read this. Center point. That may be good. This was yesterday. Let's see what this is. So this is definitely the best place to go to stay in touch with what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is doing. You can follow his campaign and follow everything. And there is a lot. So there are three candidates that I am following RFK Jr., Donald J. Trump, and Ron DeSantis. I do want to see what Ron DeSantis is doing and why. So I guess it didn't switch. Let me switch this tab over here. These unexpected voter segments may back RFK Jr. in 2024. Former Senator Scott Brown on Centerpoint on TBN's Political and Daily News show covered Robert F. Kennedy's New Hampshire peace speech on June 20th. That was an awesome speech by RFK Jr. Brown spoke with audience members at Kennedy's event and examined the voter segments that may be supporting him in the 2024 election. Brown asked, will the Biden administration try to suppress RFK's campaign? So you can watch that segment. And I don't know, maybe we should go see just to it's about a 10. It's a pretty long segment there. So I don't think I'll watch that right now, but I definitely will add that to my playlist and watch that at a later time. So RFK Jr. did post that one. Let me just go back and share. Got to get better at toggling these tabs and sharing these. What does he say about Ron DeSantis? This was about 2 hours ago. And he says, DeSantis' opposition to marijuana decriminalization is wrong. I will decriminalize cannabis at the federal level. Current situation with contradictory state plus federal law is absurd. States should be able to decide without federal interference. So this is, just read this. Ron DeSantis says he would not decriminalize marijuana if elected. I mean, he's just, the guy is a great governor, but he is just saying all the wrong things, it seems like, when it comes to being a presidential candidate. But, you know, maybe that's going to appeal to the Republican voters. I don't know. I don't know. It's not going to appeal to a lot of other people, I would think, to get those cross votes, to get the libertarian vote, to get the Democrat vote. But I would even think some of the Republican votes. So I'll just read this first paragraph. And this is from marijuanamoment.net. The article is titled, Ron DeSantis says he would not decriminalize marijuana if elected president. This was posted on June 23rd, 2023 by Kyle Jaeger, most likely. The J is usually silent. But Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican, a 2024 GOP presidential candidate, said he would not federally decriminalize marijuana if elected to the White House, arguing that cannabis use hurts the workforce, inhibits productivity, and could even lead to death if contaminated. Wow. At a campaign event in South Carolina on Thursday, a person who said they were representing wounded veterans asked DeSantis if he would please decriminalize cannabis as president. The governor responded directly, I don't think I would do that. He then talked about Florida's medical marijuana program that was enacted by voters, saying veterans are, quote, actually allowed access to cannabis under that model. But he said the issue is controversial because obviously there's some people that abuse it and are using it recreationally. Wow. Oh, that's, I don't know if that's going to play in his favor. How long is this one? Oh, that's the full speech. So you can go and watch that full speech there. It looks like he spoke in North Augusta, South Carolina. Very interesting. Okay. And, you know, this is the best place, the second best place, maybe the best place, actually, to follow Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to see what he is doing. But that's pretty interesting. RFK is following the other presidential candidates, and it doesn't really appear that Trump is doing the same thing. He is kind of attacking all of the other candidates, and some rightfully so. The one that he has not attacked is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and that may be because he has not mentioned Robert F. Kennedy Jr. thus far. What's this one? Supporters are sending us screenshots. Let me share this tab here. Here's another one. Supporters are sending us screenshots of YouTube telling users trying to rebroadcast my speech, Peace and Diplomacy, that it violates their policy on medical misinformation. Well, I'm going to keep my mouth shut on that one. You can watch the speech here. So he does have a link to the full speech on Kennedy24.com. Let's see where that one is, where it goes to. Okay, so there's another article. Okay, cool. So looks like the major speech, the main link to the speech is still up. That's interesting. Okay, peace and diplomacy. That was an awesome speech. He says the original speech itself is still up on YouTube for the time being, but it appears that they are actively suppressing its reach. Yeah, so the medical misinformation thing. Here is what this you can go and sign up for right now. It says calling all advocates for medical freedom. It's time to make your voices heard and share this important event far and wide. Join us for the Deep Reform RFK Jr. Health Policy Roundtable taking place online Tuesday, June 27, 2023 at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. This gathering brings together Mr. Kennedy along with renowned critics of prevailing health policy like Joe Mercola, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Patrick Gentempo, Maureen McDonald, Dale Bigtree, Mickey Willis, Sayer G, and others. Brace yourself for an engaging and lively discussion that tackles urgent and critical topics that mainstream policy conversations are ignoring. Mr. Kennedy is a courageous advocate for truth and freedom from government outreach and health policy. We invite you and your fellow medical freedom supporters to witness this pivotal event where a new health system will be shaped with the goal of reducing chronic disease, cutting costs, and enabling people of our nation to thrive. Here's how you can actively participate. And I've already signed up. This is going to be via Zoom. You can RSVP at this link. Organizer join a local watch party to amplify the impact. Don't put it on YouTube, because don't try to restream on YouTube. You know what will happen with this one here. So that will be one that I won't be restreaming on YouTube. Although we'll figure out a way to maybe do a transcript or something like that, or to just talk about it for people that want to hear it. I'm sure this is going to be great. This is going to be great. So they have it on the Facebook page. I'm sure that will get taken down at some point. And it ends with, let's unite and explore how we can transform that plague, how we can transform America's health and combat chronic health epidemics that plague our nation. Together we can make a difference. Share this event with fellow medical freedom advocates on social media, and let's spread the message far and wide. Excellent. And those are some of the people that are going to be there at the watch party. That is going to be an interesting one. Oh, here's the one. Here's another hater here. You're going to talk about steroids. Seems like you know a lot about that topic. Wow. How dare they? Church of Wokeism. Go forth memes and spread the wisdom. Okay. Yeah. Good, interesting stuff there. All right. How did I get here? I wanted to stay on RFK. Oh, maybe it's, I see those are cons. Yes, I don't really understand Twitter, nor do I really care to. And here's the other one. This is a town hall meeting. So this is going to be great too. This is Join the Conversation. News Nation presents a live town hall with Democratic presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on June 28th. 9 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Hosted by anchor Elizabeth Vargas, this event features voter questions and partnerships with the New Hampshire Institute of Politics. RSVP now for the live stream. Save the date and get ready to engage with the future of our nation. Don't miss out. This is going to be good too. So there you go. He's doing some major things, man. He's making some moves. Now, I like this shirt here. I really like this shirt. This is Eat the Woke. Trump Kennedy 2024. I like it. I really, really like it. But I don't know. We'll see. So I just wanted to briefly share that little quote there. Good stuff. Always good stuff to watch on RFK's Twitter and on his website too. Very, very good stuff. Well, I am going to maybe just play one or two little clips here and probably end this one quickly. So we have a lot going on here, and this clip is about a minute or so. So let me see if I can pull this one up. play this. It's a good one. This is from RFK Jr. This is a special message. And let's go ahead and watch this. 1 minute and 20 seconds. Make sure you get the highest quality. It's always a good idea. 1080p never hurt anybody. Here we go.
Hey, everybody. This campaign is about protecting our environment, about safeguarding our children from toxic chemicals and drugs, about healing the divide that is preventing us from unified action in defense of our country and our values, about winding down the war machine, and about unraveling the corrupt corporate control of our government. And this means that we are pitted against moneyed interests and vested interests. And one of the weapons that we need to make this campaign successful is money. But we don't just need large amounts of cash. We need to show our strength by demonstrating that we have a lot of support from all over the country. So if you can consider giving us any kind of donation, $5, $10, $25, or $100, and reaching out to your friends to do the same, it will help us in that mission. Please consider doing that today. Let's take back our country.
Very good. And you know what some people are going to say, well, guy he doesn't need money, shouldn't be asking for money, donating money, et cetera, et cetera. And I totally understand that. And I love that he's, $5, $10, $20, $100. We also need to remember, he was talking about this on a different show, the campaign finance laws, where I guess he can only ask for a certain amount of money. He can only ask for, I think it was, he said $3,000 per person or something like that. So his campaign, if won or lost, is really not going to be based on money, because it's not going to be that much of a factor when you think about, he's going to these rich people and everything, and he's going to ask them to give him $15, or I'm sorry, he's going to ask them to give it a maximum of $3,000, and that's it. So what he's doing right now is it's very interesting. It's very grassroots, and I really like it. I'm really enjoying watching this process. Again, not putting all of my hope or faith into anyone except for God, for Jesus Christ, and that's it. And that's where our hope and faith should start and should end, always. So all these things are temporary. Every 4 years, a new president comes in, or potentially a new president can come in. A sitting president can make a lot of changes in those lame duck years. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens. So that's, I'm going to play maybe one or two more clips. There is one old clip of President Trump that I did want to play here too before we go. I really like this clip. This is an oldie but goodie. Let's play it.
Are people trying to draft you to run for president up in New Hampshire?
Well, I guess a lot of people want to see this country. It's a shame what's happening. Japan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, everybody's taking advantage of the United States. People know that if certain people are running a country, that it won't happen. I mean, when you look at Japan not paying for the defense, we're defending Japan. We're losing billions and billions of dollars. We're fighting for AIDS help and for farmers and for this and that. And it's a shame. And the Japanese folks, who I respect greatly, but they're not treating us fairly. They're really not treating us fairly. Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, they're not paying us anything for the services we're rendering. And I think it's a disgrace. And I think people look at certain people, and maybe me, if I were in a position, this country, believe me, would not be ripped off like it is. And it is just being ripped off so badly by our so-called allies.
Yeah. So that's a pretty strong statement. So now are you saying
I don't think it's strong. I think it's fair. And by the way, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese. I do a lot of business with the Japanese. And they smile about it too. They know it. The country is losing billions and billions of dollars to Japan, and we can't afford to lose. And it's a shame.
But so now, are you saying this by way of indicating that you could do it better, and you do intend to run for president at some point?
No, I'm not going to run for president, but I think somebody.
Now, in 8 years, if you came back, would you have a different answer? In 4 years,
I tend to doubt it. I really tend to doubt it. But I just think that there's so many ways that this country can straighten itself out, and we're not going about those ways. Cutting farm aid is not the appropriate thing. Cutting help for the homeless and help for the poor and welfare. Certain things can be done that really will mean big dollars to this country. And those things are not being done right now.
You know, sitting here listening to this stuff, it seems to me you are dying to get to some public platform to superimpose those feelings upon the American awareness.
Well, maybe so, but I'm not. I would like to have the feelings known and let somebody else do it. And it can be done. If the ball's carried correctly, it can be done.
Yeah, but if you want something done right,
do it yourself.
There it is. So that's the main thing. If you want something done right, do it yourself. Very powerful words. Very, very true. And that's exactly what he did. Took a while, but he did end up doing it. So, with that being said, I was just going to say, let's try this. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but let's give this a shot. And I will try to play. I wanted to play this last time and didn't, but I do want to see if this will work or if we'll get shut down. Who knows? In this crazy world, in this day and age, who knows? So I'll be right back.
For president, the media hated more than Robert F. Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. There's never been a candidate for president the media hated more than Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You thought that title belonged to Donald Trump. Of course it must, but go check the coverage. Trump got a gentle scalp massage by comparison when he announced. When Trump rolled out his presidential campaign in 2015, the New York Times waited until the 17th paragraph of the story to attack him. But as well known as he is, the paper said at the time, Trump is also widely disliked. And then they cited a poll to back it up. That was the attack on Trump. 8 years later, the Times attacked Bobby Kennedy in the very first sentence of the story. Quote, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the paper declared, announced a presidential campaign on Wednesday built on relitigating COVID-19 shutdowns and shaking Americans' faith in science. Shaking Americans' faith in science. Imagine if you were an ordinary New York Times subscriber reading that over coffee in your pre-war rent-controlled duplex on Columbus Avenue. You'd think Bobby Kennedy just declared war on the Enlightenment. My fellow Americans, I have come to shake your faith in science. Join me as I drag our nation back to the medieval period. You'd be appalled. CBS News viewers likely were appalled. In its coverage of Kennedy's announcement, CBS denounced the candidate's views as, quote, misleading and dangerous. The LA Times called him a threat to democracy. At the offices of National Public Radio in Washington, a full-blown Category 5 hysteria typhoon broke out. NPR devoted an entire segment to savaging Kennedy, not just as a candidate, but as a human being. NPR described him as someone who, for his own perverse reasons, has made, quote, debunked and false and misleading claims that undermine trust in vaccines, and who, in his spare time, provides moral support to crazed extremists who, quote, rally under the banner of what they call liberty or freedom. People magazine didn't even bother to report a single word of anything Kennedy said at his announcement, and instead wrote an entire story about how his relatives hate him. Kennedy's younger sister, Carrie, the magazine reported solemnly, does not approve of Bobby Jr.'s harmful views. His harmful views! Bobby Kennedy's thoughts alone are evil enough to hurt people. That's been the tone of the media coverage around Bobby Kennedy Jr. for the past 18 years, since July of 2005. That's the moment that Kennedy published a magazine article suggesting there might be a link between the rise in diagnosed autism cases and the ever-expanding schedule of mandatory childhood vaccines. The day that story was published, Kennedy's reporting was considered so solid that two outlets ran it simultaneously, Rolling Stone and Salon.com. Unfortunately, neither one of them understood what they were up against. The pharma lobby rolled out the most ferocious public relations campaign in memory, and both publications swiftly caved. Both pulled the story and then disavowed it, groveling as they did. No one in the national media bothered to explain why autism diagnoses had skyrocketed. If it wasn't the vaccines, and maybe it wasn't, then what was it? To this day, there has not been a convincing explanation. Instead, reporters just attack Bobby Kennedy. They've called him a lunatic and a Nazi. Instagram shut down his account. YouTube just last week pulled down a perfectly reasonable interview he did with Jordan Peterson, citing unspecified misinformation, and so on. Kennedy became the most censored famous person in the United States. At this point, most Americans have heard a lot more about Bobby Kennedy Jr. than they've heard from him. He doesn't get many offers to speak from big platforms. But last week, Joe Rogan gave him one. Here's some of what he said.
Why do 5 of my 7 kids have allergies? You know, and of course, we know why. Because aluminum adjuvants give you allergies. They're designed to make you, to create a hyperimmune response to foreign particles. And the last category is, the allergic diseases, peanut allergies, food allergies, eczema, which I never knew anybody with eczema when I was a kid. I never, asthma, I knew people with asthma, but it wasn't 1 in every 4 Black kids like it is today. So, all of those things. Now, we went from 6% of American having chronic disease. By 1986, we're starting to have the vaccines, and we got and 11.8% of kids now. So it's doubled.
Why do 5 of my 7 children have allergies? Now, we don't know the answer, of course, but it's an interesting question. In fact, it's an important question that deserves an adult answer, not that you should hold your breath waiting to get one. Bobby Kennedy asks a lot of questions like that. He notices things. Kennedy pays attention to the world around him, and he wonders why it's changing. He's an outdoorsman, a falconer, and a fly fisherman. He's interested in how nature works. He's curious. Not so long ago, these qualities were considered essential to the practice of science. All scientific discovery comes from observation, empiricism, patient watching. Without the willingness to put aside your pre-assumptions and assess with honesty the things you see and touch and smell, the changes taking place right in front of your face, you can't do science. You can't create art either, or journalism, or theology. You have to be willing to notice the obvious. And when they tell you you're not allowed to notice the obvious, you should be concerned. Imagine you were on a commercial airline flight. The plane is just leveled out at 37,000 feet. You're closing your eyes for a nap. And suddenly you smell smoke. And it's not your imagination. You can see it. It's starting to fill the cabin. All around you, people are hacking and choking. The guy in the next seat has a napkin pressed against his mouth, and he's mumbling what sounds like Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So clearly the airplane is on fire. But almost unbelievably, no one has said a word about it. Not a single person is acknowledging this is happening. Everyone is silent. So in panic, you yell for the flight attendant. There's smoke in the cabin, you say, as if she hasn't noticed. But she stares at you with hard eyes. Shut up, racist, she replies. That's a dangerous Russian conspiracy theory. Stop spreading misinformation or I'll call TSA and have you arrested when we land. That sounds like a fever dream, but it's also pretty close to the experience of living in the United States at the moment. All around you, things seem to be fraying and getting worse. Your gut tells you there's something very bad going on, and all the evidence suggests that there is. But the people in charge won't acknowledge that. Everything's fine, they scream. Stop noticing. But wait, I don't remember this many kids having allergies or asthma or eczema or autism, or for that matter, body dysmorphia. And why so many suicides? What's going on here? Shut up, stop asking questions. That's their answer. But Bobby Kennedy won't stop asking, and that's why they hate him. As Kennedy spoke on the Rogan Show, a reporter for Vice.com called Anna Merlin was watching. Merlin was so enraged by what she saw that she dashed off an article attacking Joe Rogan's employer for allowing the conversation to take place. Spotify has stopped even sort of trying to stem Joe Rogan's vaccine misinformation, read the headline. The piece never even described much of what Bobby Kennedy had actually said. Merlin dismissed the entire interview as, quote, a detailed survey of Kennedy's most dangerously incorrect views, a far too extensive list to outline in full. In other words, we here at Vice don't have time to describe all of Bobby Kennedy's lies, but trust us, they were lies. Then Merlin called Spotify to see if she could get the episode censored. Much to her profound frustration, Spotify refused to censor the episode and kept the interview on its website. So she spent the next several days ranting about all of this on Twitter. People were listening to the wrong things, and Anna Merlin was mad about it. So was Peter Hotez. Hotez is a pediatrician from Texas who became moderately famous on MSNBC during the COVID lockdowns as a Biden shill and a vaccine promoter. Hotez read Anna Merlin's piece and then huffily retweeted it. Effectively, why is Bobby Kennedy allowed to talk in public? And that gave Joe Rogan an idea. Why not have Peter Hotez debate Bobby Kennedy on his show? You claim he's wrong. Why don't you explain why he's wrong? That seemed fair. But Hotez wouldn't bite. So Rogan offered to give $100,000 to Hotez's favorite charity if he agreed to come on. Soon others made their own pledges and the pot swelled to over $1 million. But still, Peter Hotez wouldn't come. Instead, he scampered back to MSNBC, where one of the channel's oilier hosts assured him he was doing the right thing by dodging the debate. Arguing with Bobby Kennedy is morally equivalent to debating a Holocaust denier, the host said. No decent person would do that. And of course, Hotez agreed. Quote, 200,000 Americans needlessly perished because they believed the anti-vaccine disinformation and refused to take a COVID shot. So really, talking to Bobby Kennedy would be a lot like abetting murder. And Peter Hotez, MD, PhD, was not going to do that. But wait a second, you ask yourself. Let's think about those numbers. 200,000 people died because of vaccine disinformation from Bobby Kennedy and people like him? How do we know that? Is that really science? No, it's not science because we don't know that. We can't know that. There is no way to know that. Peter Hotez's claim is a political attack posing as science, and he specializes in those. Here he is on television during the so-called pandemic.
It's all about mask compliance. That's going to be absolutely critical because if you don't have masks, remember this virus aerosolizes. So even 6 feet is not enough. It can go 17, 18 feet, several meters. What we really have to do is have vaccine mandates in the schools. We should have a rule that anyone who walks into a school over the age of 12 has to be vaccinated. This is the nature of the anti-vaccine movement in this country. It's somehow married now to far right-wing extremism and white nationalist group. Anyone who's unvaccinated and has been lucky enough to escape COVID, your luck is about to run out. And I call it anti-science aggression coming from Senator Rand Paul, Senator Johnson, members of the House of Representatives, in addition to those two senators, are killers.
It's all about mask compliance. We must have vaccine mandates for children. Take the vax or you will die. Anyone who disagrees with me is a white nationalist and a killer and probably an agent of Putin. Do we say probably? Let's revise that. Certainly an agent of Putin. Again, here is Dr. Peter Hotez.
We're starting to see now those same anti-vaccine messages that's coming out of the U.S. And now we're finding it in Africa and Latin America. And remember, what the other reason we're seeing this is the Putin government has, this has been reported by U.S. and British intelligence, has been piling on with this whole systematic program of what's being called weaponized health communications, trying to destabilize democracies with anti-vaccine, anti-science messages and targeting.
So according to British and U.S. intelligence, anyone who disagrees with Dr. Peter Hotez is a disloyal American working to destabilize our democracy on behalf of Vladimir Putin. Now, by comparison, never in his life has Bobby Kennedy Jr. said anything half that demented. But keep in mind, Peter Hotez claims to have a valid medical license. He is allowed to treat patients. After a while, even MSNBC viewers were going to have some questions about a guy who talks like that, and apparently some of them did. As the lockdowns wore on, the population started to notice that many of the core claims the TV doctors were making were untrue. You'd only need one shot. If you got the shot, you would never get sick. You would never pass the virus to others, and so on. They said these things, as you know, again and again. Ultimately, they were proven wrong, but they never admitted it. They just attacked the people who noticed. Here's Dr. Peter Hotez calling for the Biden administration to arrest anyone who questions the COVID vaccine.
the Biden administration has to realize that anti-science is a killer. Disinformation. It's not even just disinformation. This is an anti-science empire right now, and we need Homeland Security. We need the Justice Department. We've really got to figure this out. And Health and Human Services will not be able to figure this out on their own.
It's not a medical problem. It's a law enforcement problem. They've doubted me. Arrest them. It's a horrifying outburst if you think about it. If you were on tape saying something like that, you would be deeply ashamed. But Peter Hotez is not ashamed. He's become even more grandiose. Hotez has written a self-congratulatory new book called The Deadly Rise of Anti-Science, a scientist's warning, as if you were a scientist. Here's how Hotez describes himself in the book's promotional literature. Quote, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, one renowned scientist in his famous bow tie, appearing daily on major news networks such as MSNBC, NPR, and BBC, and others, Dr. Peter J. Hotez often went without sleep, working around the clock to develop a nonprofit COVID-19 vaccine and to keep the public informed. During that time, he was one of the most trusted voices on the pandemic and was even nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for his selfless work. He also became one of the main targets of anti-science rhetoric that gained traction through conservative news media. End quote, though we could go on. So here you have a renowned scientist, selfless, trusted, going without sleep, self-denying, persecuted by extremists for daring to tell the truth. The Albert Schweitzer of cable news. That's Dr. Peter J. Hotez. The fact that a partisan buffoon like Peter Hotez can describe himself this way with a straight face and the backing of a publisher makes you despair for the country's future. But don't despair. There is hope. Hotez will never debate Bobby Kennedy Jr., but it doesn't matter. Kennedy has already won. He's more honest than Dr. Peter Hotez, and that's obvious to anyone who's paying attention. A new Economist poll shows that Kennedy is more popular and far less hated than either major party frontrunner. After almost 20 years of being silenced, Bobby Kennedy Jr. is being heard, and why wouldn't he be? Kennedy's theories about vaccines may be right, they may be partially right, they could be even utterly wrong. No one's proved it either way. But what we can say with certainty is that America's medical establishment has beclowned itself for all time. Its official positions on vaccines, psychiatric drugs, puberty blockers, reassignment surgeries, a long list of other politically fashionable priorities have no connection whatsoever to legitimate science. It's all effectively witchcraft. At the annual meeting of the American Medical Association in Chicago last week, for example, delegates issued a statement attacking the body mass index as a tool of, quote, racist exclusion, which has caused historical harm. Next year, they will denounce thermometers and stethoscopes. They're insane. Compared to them, Bobby Kennedy is a mainstream figure, and people understand that. That's why he's winning. And you know he's winning by how his critics are doing. So just 4 years ago, Anna Merlan was regarded as an important expert on conspiracy theories and misinformation. She'd written a book on the topic. Here she is talking about it.
I've always thought that in the case of conspiracy peddlers, it's not necessarily a super profitable enterprise to ask whether they really believe it or not, because I don't know what's in their hearts. I don't know what's in their minds. All I know is what they spend their time doing, which is promoting conspiracy theories. In the case of ordinary people, conspiracy consumers, and most Americans are, to some degree, consumers of conspiracy theories. All the studies that we have show that like 1 in 3 Americans believe in some conspiracy theory to some extent. For the people in the very sort of deep end of the conspiracy pool, people who are consuming a lot of conspiracy content, I think it's really important to look at the way it helps them make sense of the world and make sense of our political moment and make sense of a lot of times like what's happening in their own lives.
All the studies that we have show that like 1 in 3 Americans believe in some conspiracy theory. You'll notice the upspeak, the rising inflection at the end of the sentence. That's a familiar tick in Brooklyn. It's designed to turn a declarative sentence into a question and thereby belittle the listener. Do you follow me? Is this too complicated for you? So the lady in the nose ring wants you to know she's smart, but she's not. When Merlan recorded that interview, Vice, where she now works, was valued at more than $5 billion. Genius investors like James Murdoch were showering the company with money. Everyone wanted in on the future of media, which was uptalkers like Anna Merlan lecturing you about racism and misinformation. But that has changed. Last month, Vice filed for bankruptcy. Anna Merlan is still on Twitter screeching about how her critics are transphobic, but nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear from Anna Merlan anymore. The gatekeepers are transparently ridiculous. Everyone can see that. People have started to notice.
You often hear people say the news is full of lies, but it kind of
Man, once again, there's the man, Tucker Carlson. What a great way to end this one off here. I've been waiting to hear to play that, and I will be replaying that later on. But stay tuned, because we will definitely have more, and we'll try to cover whatever the latest is that is happening with RFK Jr. and Donald J. Trump, so that I can make sure to document it all in this book that I'm working on. Kennedy and Trump. I almost said Trump and Kennedy. I still going back and forth, but I believe it's finalized here. You never know until it's published, but Kennedy and Trump. This is going to be a very entertaining year, 16 months, 15 months here, at least through the primaries. I think by the primaries, we'll know who the two candidates are, and we'll go from there. But God bless you all. Hope you have a great day, and until next time.